Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott, I'm the Emperor of Stomaria, and today I want to discuss Stomaria's government structure. So I have made a similar video to this before, which is called Why is Stomaria an Empire? And I'll leave a link to that video here, in case you want to go and watch that beforehand to give an idea of why Stomaria is an empire. I mean, why are we not a kingdom? Why are we not a republic? I mean, those questions are answered in that. But in this video, I wanted to talk specifically about the various territories, the different types of territory that make up Stomaria, because I must go over these definitions. I must have gone over them a dozen times in various other videos, because I don't know if people actually understand how Stomaria is structured. So I just want to create a video that is specifically made and geared towards explaining how Stomaria is structured. So, with that in mind, Stomaria comprises of three different types of territory plus an additional kind of territory. So I'll need to explain this a bit further. So we have provinces, protectorates, associated states, and observer states. And I will just quickly go over the definition of each one, and just so you can see how Stomaria is pieced together. So a province is privately owned land that has been purchased by the imperial family, and it is governed by a member of the imperial family or a member of the Stomarian nobility. And the Stomarian nobility, they become nobles by joining us through our Patreon campaign. There are two options there. You can become a citizen or you can be a noble, a lord or a lady. And the Stomarian nobility, in addition to being obviously a lot more valued in the sense that they're contributing significantly more to the project financially, as a sort of a reward for that, they are prioritized for positions of authority within Stomaria because they are contributing more financially, they are showing more commitment to the project. It's not a done deal. It's not an exclusive rule. Citizens can become, governors of a province, but if there are Stomarian nobles in the area, they will be considered as a first point of call because of their contributions to Stomaria. So a protectorate is land that has been purchased by the imperial family, but it is governed by the highest authority of another micronation. And this can typically occur, I think, in two ways. Is that there is a micronation that exists, but it doesn't have privately owned land. However, there is privately owned land near it that it would like to acquire in order to utilize. So they might approach Stomaria and say, would you be willing to purchase this land? We will manage it for you and we will form part of your empire. And so they will become a protectorate that way. Alternatively, there might be a micronation that already owns land, hypothetically, but sells it to the imperial family, but continues to reside there or work on the land, and they will become protectorates that way. So as long as we own the land, as long as the imperial family owns the land, and another micronation, or the head of another micronation, the highest authority of another micronation, manages that land, then we consider that to be a protectorate, because we don't have any direct involvement necessarily in governing or utilizing that land, but it is still our land. Next, you have the associated state, and that's where a micronation with private land doesn't wish to sell the land to us, but nevertheless wants to become a part of Stomaria, and so they associate with us. And this is the final territorial tier, if you like, in that we don't have the ability to legally or otherwise tell them what to do with their own land. So it is that kind of territory is the one with most autonomy, the most ability to do whatever they want to do effectively. They still form a part of the Empire of Stomaria because they want to become a part of the community, the trading network that we're building. But the land is still theirs, so at any point they could walk away and take out a chunk of Stomaria, if you like. But all three of those different types of territory, the common theme throughout is that it involves private property, involves privately owned land. And as a general rule in Stomaria, that is what we're looking for when it comes to micronations that want to affiliate with us, because we don't. We're not interested in associating with micronations that claim a public park or the moon or entire cities or towns that they don't have authority or control over, purely because we need it needs to be private land in order to utilize it legally, properly, and all above board. I can claim a public park near us, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to be able to dig it up and plant potatoes in it because it isn't my land. And, you know, when you're building the kind of micronation that we're building, which is, you know, a real world community with real world relationships with other micronations, real world trading networks, reducing reliance on and contributions to the macronations that we're based in, that's not possible if I just claim a public park. And micronations that do so and want to join us, I mean, you can't form a part of our territorial empire. But the observer state is a relatively new tier in Stomaria, which is specifically designed to allow micronations that don't have land to become involved in Stomaria. Because even if they don't have land and they don't claim a public park or they don't claim a city or the moon or whatever else, they can still have the capacity to trade with other micronations. And that's one of the most important things that we're looking to do, is building the real world community and building a trading network between other micronations. So even though you might not have land, you might, you know, have a smelting industry, you might build furniture, you might make clothes, I don't know. But any skills or materials that you do have and you want to exchange with other micronations, we would love to have those micronations involved in the trading network that we are building. And to exclude them because they don't have private territory, privately owned land as their territory, is something that's never really sat comfortably for us. And so the observer state is basically a way of allowing micronations to become a part of Stomaria that way. And so those are the the three kinds of territory that make up Stomaria, plus the observer state that allows micronations without territory to become a part of Stomaria in a slightly different way. Now, as I said, each territory does have a varying degrees of autonomy, in the sense that a province will have very limited autonomy because it's privately owned land and it's normally governed by what you would define as either a member of the imperial family or I can't think of a better way to describe it at the moment, but a pure Stomarian, someone that isn't a member of another micronation. They are simply Stomarians, and more specifically a member of the Stomarian nobility more often than not. The protectorate, obviously, it is still our land, but we are very hands-off when it comes to governing and utilising it, because the idea is to allow other micronations to blossom by themselves in that regard, and so we want to support micronations that way. Associated states, it's not our land, even though it is privately owned, so you know they can ultimately do what they want with that land. But as is the case with the Kingdom of Wayward, which is an associated state within Stomaria at the moment, we are able to utilise that land ourselves with their permission to accomplish many of our own objectives. So they definitely add value to Stomaria, or have the potential to add value to Stomaria. Whereas an observer state, there is no land to be said. It's almost what you might call a gentleman's agreement. So they are, you know, fully able to walk away with absolutely no consequences whatsoever to us or to them. I mean, it's a very loose affiliation, but that affiliation is there. A province is managed by, like I said, a governor, whereas a protectorate and associated state, is managed by whatever micronation, whatever the highest authority of that micronation goes under. So it might be a king, it might be a queen, it might be a prince, it might be a duke. It depends what the micronation is. It might be a dukedom, it might be a principality, it might be a kingdom, it might even be a republic. But I'm not sure how common those will be in the Empire of Stomaria, because my views on democracy at large are pretty well known within the micronational community. Yeah, those are the sort of the different tiers of territory and otherwise that make up Stomaria. So for those who are interested in becoming a part of Stomaria but don't know quite how they fit in or how they would fit into Stomaria, hopefully this video will give you an idea of how that works. Now, in order for a micronation to actually join Stomaria, they do have to meet various criteria, various eligibility requirements, if you like. And these revolve around longevity, they revolve around consistency, they revolve around maturity, they revolve around territory, and they revolve around the suitability of that micronation. And I'll quickly go through each one, but these are the what a micronation needs to meet. These are the things we consider before a micronation can qualify to become a part of Stomaria. So in terms of longevity, what we're looking for are micronations that have been around for a while. So if they've been around for 6 months, a year, 2 years or more, that's going to be a big plus for us. If you've been around for a week or less, then it's probably not going to swing in your favour in this particular category, even though it might not be an instantaneous no from us. It will be a concern. Purely because micronations, they come and go, like exceptionally quickly and exceptionally frequently. I mean, it's almost a trademark trait amongst micronations that try to form alliances with as many micronations as possible. One of the big drawbacks of that is that most of the micronations that they form formal affiliations with don't normally last much longer than the alliance itself, in the sense that you might form an alliance with someone who formed a micronation a week ago, and within the space of another week, they're already, dead, gone and buried. It's just one of those things. So longevity is something that we do look for, because we want to create an empire that is stable and consistent. And consistency is the next thing that we consider. So when I'm talking about consistency, I'm talking about how often do you change your government structure? How often do you change your flag? How often do you change your name? These are the three main issues that the three main topics that we look at. There are others, obviously, but if you change your flag very frequently, or your name very frequently, or government structure very frequently, that just screams to me inconsistency. And inconsistency is not what we're looking to include in the Empire of Stomaria. I don't want to have to announce that the Kingdom of Treeland has joined Stomaria, and oh hurrah, happy days. And then a few days later, you message me and go, oh, actually, we've changed our name to the Republic of pond land. You know, it's not helpful for us. It looks bad on us. It reflects badly on us. And so micronations that can avoid making drastic or even subtle changes to their government structure, to their name, to their flag, to their brand, you know, micronations that can stay consistent in that way, you know, they get a big gold star from us when it comes to micronations that are looking to apply to become a part of Stomaria. The next thing we look at is maturity, and this is sort of a two-part issue in that we first have to look at the age of the highest authority of that micronation. Because if the highest authority of that micronation is 9, then it's a safe bet that we can't justify your inclusion into the Empire of Stomaria, because you're a child. I'm sorry, there's no two ways about it. You're welcome to form a micronation. There's nothing we can do to stop you, not that we would want to anyway, but to include you as a part of a serious attempt to build a community is hampered if you need to ask your parents or guardians permission to drive you to, you know, a 31-year-old's home. I mean, that's just a bit weird, isn't it? So, yeah, so I'm afraid there is like an age limit, if you like, as to which micronational or which micronational leaders, which micronations can become formally affiliated with Stomaria in that way. But the other part of it is the even if you are, you know, say in your early 20s or older, if you have engaged in, I don't know, a micronational discord war, or you've stirred the pot and tried to cause drama to justify your own existence, or you've posted inappropriate content or made contents that could potentially bring Stomaria into disrepute, these are things that we also consider. And so, again, if you have undertaken any of those activities or comments or anything like that, then that will be a mark against you in your application process, if you like. The next thing we look for is territory. So this obviously isn't applicable for observer states, but in terms of becoming a protectorate or an associated state in particular, we look at the territory that the micronation has, because if there is no privately owned land, then by default you will have to become an observer state. I mean, there's not much to say about this. I mean, we obviously consider where that land is, what it can be used for. I mean, obviously a patch of desert land is less useful than, you know, a plot of woodland half a mile down the road from us. I mean, there is obviously that to consider, but privately owned land, regardless of where it is in the world, is a big plus for us, and that's a way to become an associated state, and potentially a protectorate if we go down that route, but more than likely an associated state. But certainly if you don't have privately owned land yourself, if it's not in your name, then the observer state tier is the only one that you'd be able to apply for. And this does go also for, again, younger people who claim to have a house and a garden and land and everything, when in reality it belongs to their parents or their guardian. So that's obviously something that we also do not consider, because the person that owns that land isn't actually affiliated or a member of Stomaria. So again, that's just a factor that we need to take into consideration. And then finally, in terms of the qualifications, the criteria that we look at is the suitability of that micronation to become involved in Stomaria. And this is quite a broad term, but it relates mostly to the government structure. Because if you are an ardent supporter of, I don't know, communism or fascism or even democracy, you're not going to be a good fit in Stomaria, because we are dead set against and have long argued against the inclusion of communist or fascist micronations within the Empire of Stomaria, or even the micronational community at large, frankly. And when it comes to democracy, I have, again, made videos about this before, about why democracy within micronationalism, within the micronational community, is just not workable, it's not feasible, it's not functional, it's destructive and divisive. It's, you know, as it is in on a macronational scale, but on a micronational level, it's amplified 100-fold. So those kinds of government structures, those kind of ideologies, those kinds of values and objectives, they're just not compatible with the Empire of Stomaria. I'm not opposed, for instance, for a republic joining the Empire of Stomaria, but that republic must be, for lack of a better word, quite dictatorial, quite authoritarian, quite one-party state-ish, for it to work in micronational terms as far as we're concerned. So again, being a republic isn't an automatic no for us. It just depends on what kind of republic you are, I suppose. So if you are a qualifying micronation, you then need to agree to the terms of becoming a member or a part of Stomaria, part of the Stomarian Empire. And this is where a lot of people tend to fall foul, because for whatever reason they cannot agree to or accept the terms that we have in place, which is fine, because it shows that, you know, we want to make sure that if it's not right for you, that you don't get involved in the first place, because there's nothing more messy than to have to announce, you know, X, Y, and Z have become a part of the Empire of Stomaria, and then they turn around and go, oh, this isn't quite what I signed up for, and then leave. That's what a lot of people do with micronational organizations, which again, I have made a video for about beforehand. But I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page before they become a part of Stomaria, just to make sure that the rate of micronations and micronational leaders leaving Stomaria is kept to as lower level as possible. So the terms are as follows. So first, the highest authority of the micronation that wants to become a part of Stomaria has to join Stomaria as a citizen or even as a noble. And they do this through our Patreon campaign, just like any other citizen would. And this is really just a token gesture to say that, yes, I am the highest authority of another micronation, but I am also a Stomarian. It's that unifying factor that we're after. And micronational leaders that either can't or won't become Stomarian citizens, they can't become a part of the Empire of Stomaria. It's really as simple as that. Micronations that wish to join Stomaria also can't have formal relations with other micronations outside of Stomaria. And this is our way of trying to formally recognize or affiliate with other micronations outside of Stomaria that we disagree with or oppose outright for one reason or another. For example, a micronation that has joined Stomaria that has formal relations with a communist micronation, that is a problem for us, because we don't want affiliations with communist micronations. Again, I have made a video on this before about communist and fascist micronations, but the long and the short of it is, I don't want Stomaria to be affiliated with those kinds of ideologies, and so if a micronation within Stomaria is affiliated with micronations of that sort, then we need to know about it, because that relation has to be broken off, or that micronation has to be removed from the empire. And leading on from that a little bit further, micronations cannot engage in activities that could bring Stomaria into disrepute. As an observer state, as an associated state, as a protectorate, if they are engaging in activities that are, illegal or just, not socially acceptable, one might say, then that is something that is going to cause problems for us in terms of our outlook, in terms of our presentation, in terms of how people view us. And so micronations that do engage in those sorts of activities, whatever they may be, they will, quickly be, again, removed from the empire. We cannot have micronations within the empire that are going to cause problems for us. I think this one is rather obvious, but as a part of the Empire of Stomaria, obviously that micronation is allowing Stomaria to then discuss and talk about that micronation in the capacity that it is a member or a part of Stomaria. And so we can report and record and, announce matters concerning that micronation if that is relevant to Stomaria as a whole. which it will likely be because they're obviously part of Stomaria. So I suppose just the ability to post about in the public domain about that micronation is a given. Now, as to why a micronation might want to become a protectorate or an associated state or an observer state within Stomaria is, as I said, because we are looking to build a trading network using the silver Stomarian stater, a coin that we've minted that allows or will allow micronations to engage in trade with one another. It'll be the medium of exchange. It will be the conduit between different micronations that will bridge the gap that has been created by trying to reduce the use of macronational fiat currency, the pound, the euro, the dollar, or whatever else, but not wanting to use micronational fiat currency, be it worthless plastic coins or bits of paper or whatever else, creating a micronational money, something which has real world value, like the silver Stomarian stater. That is going to be the conduit. That's going to be the medium of exchange between micronations within Stomaria, and any micronation that forms a part of Stomaria will be allowed to use it. I mean, everyone could be allowed to use it, but the reality is that it will be more commonly used between micronations within Stomaria than it will be with micronations outside of Stomaria, simply because at the moment there is a limited supply and we are quite restricted as to which micronations will be able to have Stomarian silver Stomarian status. So if you are interested in becoming a part of this empire of commerce, of trade, of enterprise, then please feel free to let me know and I'm sure we can work something out. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to continue to support the Empire of Stomaria in its development and its expansion, then please feel free to become a Stomarian citizen through our Patreon campaign, the link of which I shall leave in the description below as always. But otherwise, please feel free to give the video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.